I had everything: a billion-dollar empire, a princess on my arm, the world at my feet. Then she walked into my boardroom, didn't smile, didn't flirt, didn't even look twice. For the first time in my life, someone saw right through me, and it destroyed everything I thought I wanted. If you've ever felt invisible to someone who matters, or watched karma catch up to someone who deserved it, stay until the end. This story will blow your mind. Hit that like button and subscribe, because you've never heard anything like this. My name is Dominic Sterling, and I used to believe I was untouchable. At 32, I had built a $4.3 billion tech empire from nothing. I had the penthouse, the cars, the private jet, and the kind of life people fantasize about. And crowning it all was my engagement to Princess Isabel of Luxembourg. Yes, an actual princess. The kind with a title, a castle, and a pedigree that stretched back centuries. When we walked into a room together, the world stopped. Cameras flashed, people whispered. I felt like a king. But here's what nobody tells you about having everything. It starts to feel like nothing. Our engagement party cost $3 million. There were ice sculptures, a string quartet flown in from Vienna, and champagne that was older than most of the guests. Isabel looked stunning in a custom Valentino gown, her diamond engagement ring catching the light with every gesture. She smiled for the cameras, kissed my cheek at all the right moments, and played her part perfectly. Because that's what it was, a part, a performance. We both knew the truth. She wanted the American Billionaire title and the global influence that came with me. I wanted the legitimacy, the old world class that her name provided. My board loved it. My investors loved it. My late mother, God rest her soul, would have loved it. She always said I needed to marry someone who understood what it meant to carry a legacy. Isabel understood legacies better than anyone. But when we were alone, nothing. No spark, no real conversation. Just logistics about wedding venues and guest lists and which designer would create her dress. I'd find myself staring out the window of my penthouse at 3 in the morning, surrounded by luxury, feeling completely hollow. I'd check my phone and see texts from her about cake flavors and seating arrangements, and I couldn't bring myself to care. Something was missing, but I couldn't name it. I just knew I felt like I was suffocating in silk sheets. Then my company hit a crisis, a hostile takeover attempt by a rival corporation that wanted to strip us for parts. My board was panicking, my stock was dropping, and suddenly all my power felt fragile. They demanded I hire the best crisis management consultant in the country. I agreed, expecting another smooth-talking yes person who would tell me what I wanted to hear and collect a massive check. I was so wrong. Nadia Baptiste walked into my boardroom on a Tuesday morning, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. She was 34, Haitian American, with natural hair pulled back in a sleek bun and a no-nonsense expression that immediately put me on edge. She wore a sharp black suit, minimal jewelry, and carried herself like she owned the building, which technically I did, but you wouldn't know it from her demeanor. She didn't smile when we were introduced, didn't compliment the view from the 50th floor, didn't seem impressed by anything about me or my empire. She sat down, opened her laptop, and said, "Your company isn't the problem, Mr. Sterling. You are." I actually laughed. Nobody talked to me like that. My executives shifted uncomfortably, but Nadia didn't flinch. She pulled up slide after slide showing every mistake I'd made in the past 3 years. Missed opportunities, poor leadership decisions, a corporate culture that prioritized image over innovation. She had done her homework, and it was brutal. For 45 minutes, she dismantled everything I thought I knew about my own company. When she finished, the room was dead silent. "You have 90 days to turn this around," she said, closing her laptop. "Follow my recommendations exactly, or I walk, and you can tell your board you were too arrogant to take advice from the best." Then she stood up and left without waiting for my response. I sat there stunned. My CFO cleared his throat. Should we find someone else?" I shook my head slowly. "No, hire her, immediately." Over the next few weeks, I watched Nadia transform my company from the inside. She arrived before everyone else and left after everyone had gone home. She didn't play politics or try to make friends. She just worked with a focus and intensity I'd never seen before. And the strangest thing, she treated me exactly like she treated everyone else. Not better because I was the billionaire owner. Not worse because of some chip on her shoulder. Just neutral, professional, like my money and status were completely irrelevant to her. I found myself trying to get her attention. I'd bring her expensive coffee from that boutique place on Fifth Avenue. She'd thank me politely and then go back to the office pot. I'd invite her to exclusive events where she could network. She'd decline, saying she had work to finish. I'd try to engage her in personal conversation. She'd redirect back to business. It was maddening. For the first time in my adult life, I couldn't charm someone, couldn't buy their interest, couldn't even earn a genuine smile. Meanwhile, Isabel was planning what she called the wedding of the century. She'd burst into my office with fabric samples and photos of destination venues, completely oblivious to the fact that I was barely listening. Dominic, are you even paying attention? The wedding planner needs to know if we want the ceremony in Monaco or the south of France. I'd nod absently, my mind elsewhere, usually on the woman working late in the office down the hall who didn't care about any of this nonsense. I started comparing them without meaning to. Isabel, who spent 3 hours getting ready for a dinner party. Nadia, who kept an extra blazer in her office in case meetings ran long. Isabel, who needed constant validation and compliments. Nadia, who seemed genuinely confused when anyone praised her, like good work was just expected, not celebrated. Isabel, who loved being photographed. Nadia, who actively avoided cameras. One night we were working late on a presentation for the board. It was just the two of us in the conference room, and Nadia had finally shed her blazer, letting down her hair as she paced, talking through strategy. We were debating a terrible marketing idea my team had proposed, and she made some joke about how bad it was, and I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. In that moment, with takeout containers scattered around us and the city lights glittering through the windows, I realized something that terrified me. This was what happiness felt like. Not champagne and galas and princess girlfriends. Just this. Talking to someone who challenged me, who made me think, who treated me like a person instead of a prize. Nadia excused herself to take a call, completely unaware that my entire world had just shifted. I started making moves, subtle at first, mentioning that my engagement was complicated, finding excuses to work closely with her, but Nadia shut it down every single time with that same professional coolness. Not my business, Mr. Sterling. We're here to save your company, not your soul. That line gutted me, because she was right. I was looking for her to fix something broken inside me, and she could see right through it. Everything came crashing down during a board meeting. Nadia was presenting her turnaround plan, and it was brilliant. A complete restructuring that would save the company and position us for long-term growth. The board was celebrating, shaking hands, actually smiling for the first time in months. I was watching her, proud in a way I'd never felt about Isabel, and that's when my fiancé burst through the door. Isabel had somehow found out about the meeting and decided to make an entrance. She was furious, having noticed over the past weeks how distracted I'd become. "So this is where you've been spending all your time? With some consultant?" The way she said consultant was dripping with contempt. The room went silent. Nadia stood there completely composed, but I could see something flicker in her eyes. Then Isabel said it. The thing that changed everything. "Really, Dominic? Some nobody? I mean, look at her." The implication was clear, the racism and classism barely veiled. My board members looked mortified. I felt sick. But before I could say anything, Nadia spoke. "Miss Isabel, is it?" Her voice was calm, controlled. "I'm nobody to you, which tells me everything I need to know about your worldview. Mr. Sterling, I'll email you my final recommendations. My work here is done." She gathered her materials with steady hands and walked toward the door. As she passed me, she said quietly, "This is why I don't look your way. Men like you are predictable." I followed her into the hallway. "Nadia, please wait. I'm so sorry. She had no right." She turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw real emotion in her expression. Not anger, Something worse. Disappointment. You think I didn't know you were attracted to me? You think I couldn't see it from day one? That's exactly why I kept my distance, Dominic. Wealth doesn't impress me. I built my own. Status means nothing. I earn my own respect. I've dealt with men like you my entire career. Powerful men who see a woman who doesn't fall at their feet and decide she's a challenge to conquer. You don't want me. You want someone who doesn't want you. That's just ego. The truth of her words hit me like a physical blow. That's not. I researched you thoroughly before taking this job, she continued. I know about your pattern with women. I know your engagement is a business arrangement. I knew exactly what I was walking into, which is why I set boundaries from the start. You're not a bad person, Dominic, but you've never had to work for anything real in your life, including real connection. And I'm not going to be the black woman who fixes you so you can ride off into the sunset with someone your social circle approves of. I know how this story ends. Before I could respond, she was gone. Within 24 hours, Isabel had leaked the story to the press. Billionaire's affair with employee was the headline, with carefully edited details that made it look like I'd been cheating on a princess with a subordinate. The narrative painted Nadia as a gold digger and me as a cliché. Society turned on me viciously. How dare I disrespect royalty? How dare I risk such a perfect match? Business partners started distancing themselves. My stock prices tanked further. Isabel played the wounded princess perfectly, giving tearful interviews about betrayal and heartbreak. Nadia quit to protect her reputation, refusing to comment publicly despite the character assassination. I tried calling her, emailing, even showing up at her apartment building. She wouldn't see me. Her assistant sent a formal message. Miss Baptiste wishes you the best in your future endeavors. Like I was just another client. Like those late nights and real conversations had meant nothing. I sat alone in my office one night, my so-called perfect life in ruins around me. I'd lost Isabel, not that I had ever really had her, lost my reputation, lost the respect of my board. Stock prices were in free fall. But the worst part, I'd lost the one person who had actually made me want to be better. Not for show, not for image, but genuinely better. 6 months crawled by. I rebuilt slowly, humbled and broken. I actually implemented Nadia's strategies, worked 16-hour days myself instead of delegating everything. I stopped going to society events, stopped dating entirely, started building the kind of company and the kind of man that would have made her proud, even though she'd never know it. Then I found out the truth about Isabel. My former head of security, who'd been fired during the crisis, reached out with information. Isabel had been having an affair with my business rival the entire time we were engaged. The whole relationship had been a setup to get inside information about my company. Every intimate dinner where I discussed strategy, every document she'd accidentally seen, every board member she'd charmed at parties, all of it was corporate espionage dressed up in a tiara. She'd played me from day one, and when I became distracted by Nadia, she'd burned it all down out of spite. The karma was poetic. Isabel's reputation crumbled when her affair partner dumped her publicly, revealing she'd been using him too. Her family was humiliated. She became exactly what she'd accused Nadia of being, a social climber who'd overplayed her hand. Meanwhile, I heard through industry contacts that Nadia had opened her own firm. She was thriving, landing international clients, getting profile pieces in business magazines about her innovative approach to crisis management. She'd never needed me. She'd never needed anyone. A year after everything fell apart, my company had stabilized. I was dating someone new, Caroline, a high school teacher I'd met at a charity event. She was normal, grounded, had no idea about tech or high society, and didn't care to learn. She liked me for me, or at least the version of me I was becoming. We were at a charity gala when I saw her across the room. Nadia. She wore a deep emerald dress, her natural hair styled in elegant locks, talking with a group of executives who were clearly hanging on her every word. My heart did this stupid thing where it actually skipped a beat. I hadn't seen her in a year, but the impact was just as strong as that first day in the boardroom. She saw me. Our eyes met across the room. For a second, I thought she might turn away, but instead she gave me a small nod. An acknowledgement. Not friendly, not cold. Just, respectful. I excused myself from Caroline and walked over, my palms actually sweating like a teenager. Nadia, it's good to see you. Dominic, she smiled slightly. I heard about the company turnaround. Impressive work. I used your playbook, all of it. I know, I've been watching. She paused, then said something that changed everything. I'm proud of you. You finally became the man you pretended to be. We talked for maybe 10 minutes. Professional, cordial, with an undercurrent of something unspoken. She was genuinely happy with her life. I was genuinely happy with mine. There was no second chance romance, no grand gesture that won her over. Sometimes growth doesn't come with a reward. Sometimes the lesson is the point. As I turned to leave, she said, Dominic? I looked back. That woman you're with, the teacher, she's good for you. I can tell. Don't screw it up by making her into a project or a prize. Just let her be real. I nodded, understanding what she meant. Thank you. For everything. For not going easy on me. You're welcome. Then she smiled. A real smile this time. For what it's worth, I never hated you. I just knew my boundaries. Not everyone needs to be saved, and not everyone is meant to be yours. That was the last time I spoke to Nadia Baptiste. But here's the twist I never saw coming. The one that made everything make sense. 3 months after that gala, I was going through old company files, doing a final purge of materials from the crisis period. I found a folder I'd never seen before. Inside was a letter, dated from just before Nadia quit. It was addressed to me but had never been sent, probably forgotten in the chaos. In it, Nadia admitted something that shattered everything I thought I knew. She had been attracted to me too, from the start. She'd felt that same connection during those late-night work sessions. But she'd made a choice, a conscious, painful choice, to protect both of us from something that could never work. Not because of race or class or any of the superficial things, but because she could see I wasn't ready. I was a project, a man who needed to break before he could rebuild into something real. And she refused to be the woman who destroyed her own peace trying to fix a man who wasn't ready to fix himself. I set boundaries not because I didn't feel anything, she wrote, but because I felt too much. And I knew that someone had to be strong enough to walk away so you could find yourself. I hope someday you understand that the greatest act of love isn't holding on. Sometimes it's letting go before anyone gets damaged beyond repair. I hope you find what you're looking for, Dominic. I really do. I sat there in my office reading those words over and over. She'd seen everything, known everything, and she'd still walked away because she loved herself more than she wanted me. That wasn't rejection. That was the most profound act of self-respect I'd ever witnessed. Sometimes the people who reject us are actually saving us from ourselves. I learned the hardest lesson. You can't buy respect, and you can't fake substance. Nadia knew her worth and never settled, and that's the real power move. She didn't need to humble me. She just needed to show me what real strength looked like. And in doing that, she gave me the greatest gift anyone ever has. She let me become someone who deserved real love. If this story made you think differently about self-worth and real attraction, smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me, have you ever been in my shoes or Nadia's? Subscribe for more stories where karma comes full circle and people get exactly what they deserve, good or bad. Remember, the right person won't chase you. They'll inspire you to become someone worth catching. And sometimes the greatest love story is the one where someone loves themselves enough to walk away.